Hello and welcome to the Kernow Kast, where I, Lewis Pauling, talks to people from all walks of life from across the Duchy. We are particularly focusing on Cornwall's entrepreneurs, their businesses, and how they contribute to the county. But we're not going to forget about those unsung heroes that power our community. We are here to spread the word of all these organisations so that you can get involved within your community or support that local business that you didn't know was just around the corner. So join me on a journey around the county from the comfort of your car, armchair, or wherever else you might listen. Cheers, my dears.
Hello again, everybody. If this is the second time you're listening, anyway. Welcome, or Dynarg, if you're Cornish and can speak Cornish. I can't. I just found that off the internet. Hopefully I've said it correct. Get in touch if I've got it wrong. So welcome. This is episode 2 of the Kernow Kast, and this is with another good friend of mine. He's called Mike Dyer. He runs a dairy farm with Jersey cows. We talk all about his farm, how it's been going, how he's got it started, and also about Cornish agriculture. I think I get still in the learning process of asking questions and figuring out where I'm going to try and take the interview. So bear with me once again, but hopefully it's interesting enough for you to listen to. I think Mike's pretty good at answering the questions, and Mike's quite interesting guy to listen to anyway. So without any further ado, please Dynarg, my friend Mike Dyer. Just 1 second. Because I've got to get it right, haven't you? You've got to get it right. Welcome, Mike, to the Kernow Kast. How are you feeling?
Intrigued.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good open mind.
Yep.
Open mind.
Yep.
For the listeners out there, can you describe yourself in one word?
One word. Cornish.
Cornish through and through.
Yeah,
born and
through
bred.
And through. Born and
good.
bred.
I think our listeners will like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ideal. So let's get into it. You're a dairy farmer.
Correct.
Can you just tell me a little bit about your farm?
It's a family-run business. Myself and parents are the partners in the business. We milk we got about 270 Jersey cows on the farm at the minute.
Yeah.
Looking to expand, which will now putting up a new shed, which will put us up to 400 cows. We rear all our own young stock. So everything that's coming into the herd is reared by ourselves. We don't try not to buy anything in, although we are at the minute to increase numbers. But
fill the shed.
Just to fill this big shed that we're putting up. Yeah.
Yeah.
We sell our milk to a local processor, which is Trewithen Dairies, which you got your Kelly's ice cream, a lot of corner shops. It's in the Asda and Bodmin. Good business, good local business, going strong, and growth is definitely on their side. They're pushing forwards as much as we want to push forwards, and hopefully we can all push forwards together. So that's
brilliant.
The background of it.
Sounds like a good partnership going on there as well.
Yeah.
Ideal. So you said jerseys, right?
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about jerseys rather than your regular black and white.
So in a
cows?
Normal cow picture, you'd see a black and white cow. These are jerseys, so they'd be shorter, brown, generally brown, or ginger, however you want to look at them. So these here won't give quite as much milk, but what they will do is give you higher quality milk. So this would be your gold top. Your Holstein would be your blue cap, sort of quality milk, and the jerseys would be a gold top. So although we don't get the same or as much literage out of the black and white Holsteins, we do get that higher quality.
And you can charge a little bit extra for that, can't you?
Yeah, so on our milk contract, it's broken down to several different compartments within the pricing. There's a standard point for that base of a litre, and then everything in the fat and proteins, which is your quality that you gain on your price. So whereas your Holstein boy would be getting 22p roughly for his litre of milk, we would like to be at least 5p above that. So we would be at the minute around a 27 pence, which is okay. I think if you weighed out the two, they would be very close to each other. I think neither is better than each other. Like really, the Holstein gets more litres, but your Jersey's more quality. So swings and roundabouts.
Yeah. So if you was to have exactly the same farm, but with your Holsteins in there instead, same amount of Holsteins as Jerseys. If you move this farm to that, you'd basically be running the same sort of business. You'd have a bit.
Yeah. See, Dad had Holsteins before I come home on the farm. Was milking Holsteins, and he was farming 500 acres, and he had 150 Holsteins, and that was his limit really.
Right.
Whereas now we're farming about 500 acres still, but we're going to be up to 400 cows with all our own replacements. But I think we're more aggressive than what we was when Dad was here and I wasn't.
In a business sense, yeah?
In a business sense, yeah. We are. That acre is a lot more aggressively seen, which I think is the way that you've got to be. You've either got to be aggressive and get as much out of it as you can, or you've got to be low inputs and keep it as cost tight and friendly as you can. It's the two ways which you want to go, and I'm the sort of person that's foot to the floor, let's go, and that's the way we're going to farm from now on. So right or wrong, we shall see.
Brilliant. So you've actually given us a bit of a highlight onto how many acres and stuff you farm and how many cows. How many litres or gallons of milk do you sort of produce on a daily basis or a weekly basis? I don't know how you work it out, but
we have a tanker come and collect our milk every other day, which at the minute we're sending away 7,000 litres every other day. So you're 3,500 litres a day, and that would give us about 100,000 litres a month we're sending away at the minute.
Right.
So as an insight to our business, simple maths for someone who wants to work it out, we're sending away 100,000 litres. We get 27p, so we got a milk check of £27,000 per month coming in. But if you look at the dairy industry and the way it's gone, and I'm sure a lot of you heard a lot of press, a lot in the press about it recently, that once upon a time we was getting up to 41p per litre. So now our milk check per month has gone from 41,000 back to 27,000, which we can perhaps come on to a little bit later on in the conversation. But that's just a sort of an insight of what sort of money we're dealing with, the cash flows we're dealing with. It's nice to have that milk check coming in, but at the same time, you're bringing it in with one hand and most of it's going out with the other. But that's for a later discussion if you want to.
Well, yeah, we can.
Yeah.
We'll come on to it, I'm sure. It's not actually far away in my little plan. But you've been doing this. So how long have you been doing this now? Since you started up again with the Jerseys? So
the Jerseys arrived on the farm. We bought a herd up in Cheshire. We agreed on the herd autumn 2010, and they arrived to us April 2011 to start milking. So we're now just over 5 years. Going strong. Good herd here now. To be fair, the herd we bought in the autumn, by the time they got to us in the spring, they wasn't the same herd, which lesson learned. I think you got to keep a very close eye on if you agree prior to delivery sort of thing, that you got to keep an eye on these things, because I think they sort of felt, well, the cows are sold, so we can let go of the throttle a bit. And
you don't think they took as much care over the cows as what you would have liked? Do you think that, so going forward, if you was to go into that, do that again, would you try and have the delivery of the cows a bit sooner rather than hold out from over that winter, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. To me, you got to try and get them here as soon as you can, because then they're under your control. That gave us a fair knock, to be fair, and it's taken us 5 years to get over it. But we're rolling now. You can't live on that excuse for the rest of your life. I think now, if we was to look, well, we are buying again, and within 2 weeks they're on my farm. So that's a lesson learned.
Brilliant. Okay, great. So you said about they arrived in 2011, the spring, did you say?
Yeah, April 2011. Yeah.
And what was it like when you had that first milk check come through?
The first, well, they obviously come on the lorry, and there were several photos being taken, and it was an exciting time. They actually arrived in the middle of the night, just how the lorry how his day like planned out to get here. They got here about, I think it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Extremely exciting, extremely nervous. A lot of pressure was put on myself in a way, not intentionally, but through several conversations before they arrive. It was a fair talking point for a lot of people, and a lot of people was being told by myself and by my parents and by everyone that's close to me that it was me that wanted these cows. It was my investment. It was all for me, like, really. And then suddenly you're spending £200,000 on some cows that is your family's money and the farmer's money. And okay, do you really want this? Yeah, I really do. But when they actually arrive, you think, right, now it's time to focus and crack on. This is it now. We gotta go for it. So
yeah.
It got real then. That was
the realization it kicked in. And
so yes, that first milk check was nice. We had a lot of payments to make before that milk check, so as soon as that one come in, it was quite refreshing. But from then on, it's just been rolling bills and rolling milk checks, really. So yeah.
Just another payday.
It is just another payday.
That's great. So why did you start this? I mean, like you said, you touched on just a minute ago about in the news and stuff, lots of the milk prices are going down. There's lots of dairy farmers going out of business. How you seem to have gone against the tide in a way. What made you do that, and why did you decide on that?
It's because I'm awkward.
Like to make things difficult for yourself.
No, that's right. No, I think it's always good to go against the grain, because everything goes round in circles. So I think when I went into milk, they were then coming out of a minor crisis and then going into good times, and we had a good first few years into milk. Not that was ever planned. That was the time we was going in. That's just how it sort of worked. But now we're going through a bit of a crisis again. But if you look, I think in the near future, dairy's going to look bright again. And now would be a time to come in again. And there's a lot of people going out. So I think it all comes around in circles. People will be coming in, people will be going out. But one thing is for sure is that dairy farms, the actual number of farms are dropping. The cow numbers aren't, but the actual dairy farms are dropping. And that's a worrying point for me. I think what we're going to lose touch on is the general public not having... There always has been, through my generation at least, and more besides the generations before, either your grandfather or your uncle or your cousin or whoever, someone within your family or within your close group had that dairy commitment, and you'd be at a barbecue and suddenly that person wasn't there while they were on harvest, or there was a lot of different times. Christmas afternoon when you want to snooze and watch crappy films all day, they were out milking. And I think that's something that we got to be very careful of. We don't lose touch with these families. I think the next generation is going to be worse, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. Is not that I feel we're not getting appreciated now, but I feel there's a risk that they will soon start thinking that milk does come from a supermarket, and what the hell is a cow?
Yeah. Do you think that's do you think that's like a trend that's just county-wide, or do you think it's nationally-wide as well?
It's worldwide.
Worldwide, yeah.
I've been fortunate enough to go to different countries with groups of dairy farmers, perhaps a dozen dairy farmers going to different countries and seeing how they do it, and massive learning experience. And went to China last year, which was just absolutely crazy. And they are one worse again. The huge contrast between the city life and the agricultural life has just become absolutely extreme. And poverty within the agriculture is huge, absolutely huge.
Yeah.
So, and I think China is an extreme of everything, like really. But we just, as a nation, got to be very careful that we don't lose contact of what this backbone of this nation is about, which is agriculture.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So why do you think it's going that way? So it seems to be going more towards like the super farms rather than the sort of small local farms. If you look back in time, like you're saying about grandparents and things, they didn't just have dairy farms. They would have, I don't know, chickens, and they'd be laying all the eggs and stuff, and people would come to the farm to pick up a bit of everything rather than just their milk. I'm trying to get onto the point of the more local farm towards rather than the super farm. Do you understand?
I think like years ago, always used to be a mixed farm. Like your farm would have enough cows that would produce plenty of milk, and then you'd have a few beef bullocks, and you'd have a few sheep that you'd kill for your freezer, and you know there was pigs, a couple of pigs always on the farm, and things like that. That's, I mean, like we're one ourselves that is exactly gone the wrong way. Well, wrong, depends how you look at it. That everything on this farm has to milk. There's nothing that is on this farm that would not milk other than a dog. You can try milking him, but he wouldn't be very happy, I reckon. But yeah, everything on this farm has to milk. I'm a dairy farmer. A good friend of ours, because Dad used to do a lot of different things back years ago, and a very good friend of ours said, look, you're a dairy farmer, you're a contractor, you're an arable farmer, you're a beef farmer, so now which one are you going to do properly? So
yeah,
I
pick
think
one, and
you got to do the job properly now. It's before, I think when you used to run a dairy farm, as long as you could get milk from that cow in some sort of means, you could make money. But I think now dairy farming has to be looked a huge amount more as a business. It is now running a business, whereas I think before, if you could just get milk out of that cow, then you're going to be all right. But that isn't happening anymore. And as far as like the way it's going into super dairies, I think that the oldest, how can I say that? The average age of a dairy farmer is rapidly increasing. I think it's not seen as an enjoyable job to be a dairy farmer anymore. A kid wouldn't want to leave school and I want to be a dairy farmer. So I think generally the average age of the dairy farmer is like scary how much it's rising. Right. Which then that would just bring you less dairy farms, because these old boys, they don't want to do anymore. What's the point? If their son wants to go and be an accountant for a concrete firm or something like that, then what's the point in them getting out at 4 o'clock in the morning and getting in at 6, 7 o'clock at night? You know, why do it anymore? As an asset, they're worth more than they could ever be worried about. So I think they just sell up. But the cows don't go all to slaughter. The cows have got to go somewhere. So then Mr. Bloggs up the road, who's already milking 400, thinks, I could milk his extra 50. Now I'm milking 450. And it's just a natural progression of how it's going to go. And it's going to get worse and worse and worse. Definitely. Do you think it's a negative that it'll go towards that? Or do you think it's positive in some ways? I think it's positive as far as the cow's concerned, because although I'm stereotyping things here, but I think your 400 cow farmer probably is more focused than your 50 cow farmer. I think they haven't got the individual attention that your 50 cow farmer would get. But as far as practice of dairy farming, he would probably be more precise to that cow than probably your 50 man. I am stereotyping, and to be fair, there's several 50 cow farmers out there that are absolutely brilliant, and there's several 400 cow farmers out there that are just an absolute joke to the business. But that's just a stereotypical way that I see it. But the main concern, so I think that's probably better in that way, but the biggest concern to me would be you've now lost that family contact of that whole group that has been lost in that family. So now Grandad doesn't go out and milk Christmas morning, you know, and
And what you're saying is that there's no one, his grandson isn't there to go out and milk for him. On the grand scheme of things, is that what you were trying to get at just a moment ago?
Who does want to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and start milking cows?
It's not as glamorous a job for the person leaving college.
It doesn't appeal. I think that's something that farming as an industry has to seriously look at. I think we got to. We got to glamour this job up a bit more. We got to make it look more appealing to people because it is going to get worse. So I think that's a massive focus in agriculture.
How would you go about that if you could have control the way it worked? What would you put in place to try and make it a bit more glamorous? It can't be an easy
$1 million question
fix.
That is beyond me. I milk cows. I love my life. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love my life. So I'm an example of why young people should get into dairy, because I feel I would not want to do anything else in this world than be here and milking these cows. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. Is it the trying to get back to sort of why you done it compared to the other youngster or young farmer out there that's not going into the dairy farm that he could do? It must be the whole thing, obviously, to you, like the business side of it, taking care of the cows, everything else that encompasses, the problem solving aspects of the job. What is the one thing that sticks out to you about this job that you think would inspire youngsters to go and get into milking themselves?
The one thing that
what really got your attention into it?
The challenge, I think that was the biggest thing of it all, was the challenge of dairy farming. It's a hard question. I don't really know what to say that was my main appeal to dairy farming. I thrive in the money swapping hands. I thrive in the business opportunities. Yet with dairy farming, you're handling so much cash one way. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying as in we handle so much cash in our wallets. I'm just saying we handle so much cash in and out of our bank account. I'm just that sort of person that absolutely thrives on it. Just the more cash flow I can push through this business, I think the more opportunities it will create. There's opportunities now to make money, there's opportunities to lose money. And that is what I absolutely thrive in. And then to have that sort of thrive at 27 years old, I think I got one hell of a life coming. I really do, providing I bet the right horse.
Yeah, definitely. So it's the business side of it that really attracts you to the job.
I love the stock.
And yeah, of course.
I do love the stock.
It's the farming side of it is your expertise, if you like. I mean, you've grown up on the farm for a start. You know all about it. It's obviously something that, because you did leave the farm, if you like, for a short while, didn't you? You went into landscaping and stuff, but did that not appeal to you and you wanted to come back to the farm?
I think the main inside the main focus was always to come back to the farm. But as soon as I left school at 16, I had someone give me very good advice, and I would give advice to everyone exactly the same, in that you've got to go and work for a boss. You've got to go and do the really rubbish jobs. I was going to swear then. The really rubbish jobs that you don't want to do, but you don't get paid unless you do them. That's the end product. If you don't want to do them, then quit, go and find another job. But you don't. You end up having to do them, and you learn so much from that. So I think there's a lot of like farmers' sons that go home, and again, I'm stereotyping, but that's.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's all right.
That's right.
Very broad conversation.
There's a lot of farmers' sons that go home, start cracking the whip when they're 16, 17, and end up being an absolute idiot to work for the rest of their life. And I think I learned a lot of people skills, a lot of staff management skills, a lot of good things for those 3 years I was away. And I think being away made me thrive even more to come home. I had to come home then. Whereas I think if I come home right away, you'd always be sort of thinking, oh, what if, and what if? Whereas I've been out and done that. Okay, I do know I want to come home. I'm coming home. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Brilliant. Ideal. All right. Well, I think we've covered most of the sort of your farm and
We've had a go.
everything else. Yeah. Is there anything else that you can think of that comes to mind that you feel like you might have missed what we've discussed? Or
The only thing I'd have said in that what I feel has been a huge benefit to myself and my sisters and a lot of other kids around there, to me, there's no better place to grow up than on a farm. Without doubt, you learn so many things about being a person growing up on a farm, and to me, it's the best place in the world to grow up, other than maybe like, I don't know, the Caribbean or something like that. I haven't ever met someone who's grown up in the Caribbean, so
No.
it's probably quite cool to grow up in the Caribbean. But as far as this is concerned, I
in
think
some ways,
I think
get a bit more sun.
yeah,
but-
you get a bit more sun than you do here.
Well, yeah. Well,
But then I don't think you grow much grass in the Caribbean, so I wouldn't be able to have my cows.
no. Yeah, I don't think you'd fulfil much of your
No, I
business.
think
you'd have a farm of parrots. I reckon.
There's not a better place to grow up on than on a farm, and I do value that tremendously.
Brilliant. No, that's great. So we kind of already touched on sort of local farms and stuff. There seems to be, not just in the milking sense, but on the broader agricultural scene, there seems to be sort of two ways that is going. Obviously, we're looking, like we said, you've got your sort of big farms coming in, or like taking a lot of, picking up the pieces from all the farms that are sort of stepping down or taking to one side. But there is a growth in sort of local farm and local produce. Seems to have been coming up in the last few years. I probably wouldn't have said it's taken hold as much as what I would have thought, but I think it's quite important part of what's going on, especially in Cornwall with our local food and local produce. It seems to be a big part of the county and its economy. Where do you see sort of local farming going in that sense? Or
I think like we now live in a consumer's market, so without patronising anyone, the customer is now deciding on what sort of product they're buying. All started at your free range eggs, to me, as in they're not buying these battery hand laying eggs.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way it's going. As far as agriculture is concerned, I think there's room for organic, but I think that's a very different conversation again, really. But I think it's a consumer market. So now I'm going back to dairy farming as this part of agriculture because that's the sort of thing I know so well. There's a lot of focus on antibiotic use, which the general public are asking a lot more questions. There's a lot more questions being asked on how they're sort of housed. There's a huge push at the minute for farming, not factories, which is like your pigs and things like that, because there's a fair bit of focus on that across the social media. Has been an absolutely huge thing to agriculture. Not that a lot of farmers know too much about it, but it is, camera phones now, they can capture so many not wrong things, but out of context things.
Yeah.
And you put it onto Facebook or Twitter or something like that, and you can have 1 million views in a second, sort of thing. So I think that's not a worrying time, but I think everyone has to be on their A game as far as animal welfare. So as far as your locals and that sort of push, I mean, like, I think it's not too bad at the minute, but it's a definite thing that's going to come in the very near future. I think these customers are going to want to be buying products from a guaranteed decent farm of some sort. I mean, we got the red tractor, whereas if you buy everything with that red tractor on, that it's farm assured. So we have an audit every year. We got one now coming up next month where they go through with a fine tooth comb of your whole farm, your whole antibiotic use, your lameness, everything. And I think that is absolutely brilliant. I hate them when they come. It's really hard work, but I think it's absolutely crucial, because I dread to think what some of these people out there would be doing else.
Yeah, it's good safety net, and
Massive safety net.
Yeah,
Massive safety net.
brilliant. So, there is like across the, what I was saying was across the, like you said, at the consumer market, there seems to be two ends of the spectrum as well, because you touched on the organic side of it as well. That seems to be like that's obviously the higher price point, and then there's the cheaper side of things, or your mass produced battery hens, for example, those sorts of things. Do you see there being a middle ground to that, or do you see the two ends of the spectrum spreading further apart?
I think you gotta look at, you almost gotta stand in Asda's doorway for a day and look at the people that's walking in and out of that store, and you gotta think to yourself, is that person going to go in and get their shopping bill to the lowest cost they possibly can?
Yeah.
Well, that person cannot argue with your aggressive and perhaps factory farming, because to me that's on low margins, that you got to push through the numbers. That's the way they got to do it. And how can they turn around and argue if they should be having pigs out in pigsties and running around in earth instead of in these crates, but then go and buy the cheapest pork on the shelf? I think that's sort of contradicting themselves. And then you got the man who walks in that is going to buy what he feels is the best product in every range, not too worried about his bill at the end of it. I think you got to focus on that person, and then you got your middleman. It all depends. I think you'd have to literally stand on Asda and count the people that's walking in and out of that door. I think, like, so your Audis and your Lidls are becoming more and more popular, but they are supporting British products now better than they ever have done. So I can't argue with them too much. But it seems to be always coming back to this conversation of supermarkets, doesn't it? As in, they are absolutely dictating how this country is run.
Yeah.
Absolutely dictating how this country
They're definitely
is run.
controlling the way we purchase food and
Yeah.
and even goods and
All the way
goods,
through.
Yeah.
All the way through. They are literally dictating how this country is run. And that scares me. But at the same time, I buy all my groceries from a supermarket, other than I try to do a bit of butcher and a bit of local fruit and veg. But generally, 90-something% of our shopping comes from supermarkets.
And
So
I'm exactly the same, and I kind of feel bad about it, because I like to think I want to support local produce and like the shop on the corner, but in this day it's difficult, especially and it is difficult in time for one, and for price.
Yeah.
Because by the time that you think you've gone to the fruit and veg place on one part of the street, and then you've gone to the other side of town to go to your butcher, and then you've gone somewhere else to pick up some other bits.
it's convenience, isn't it?
It is
It's just
convenience. And this is something I've been thinking of for a while. Not that I know how to facilitate it, but if anyone wants to take up this idea, then go for it, because I think it's probably quite good. But a supermarket of local produce, so like a farmer's market, but one that's open as much as a supermarket, with that's housed with the local producers.
You sort of got that with your farm shops. There's a few farm shops that's kicking around, and they are absolutely thriving. I mean, like you've got Lifton Farm Shop up in Devon. They are a huge growing business that absolutely pushes local produce, and I think that is absolutely fantastic. And the more and more that can come about, the better I feel it's going to be. At the end of the day, each person's only going to eat so much bread. Each person at the end of the day is only going to eat so much vegetables. Each person's only going to eat so much fruit. So as much as we can, it's a bit like boycotting Google. Are you really going to make a difference? But if we can take away as much from that, there's a certain amount of pie that everyone's going to have. So the more pie we can take away from that supermarket, the better I feel. So there's a massive window for that, and I think watch this space. I think within mid North Cornwall, there's got to be one coming that's going to be big somewhere.
Yeah,
there's a market there.
Brilliant, great. Okay, so let's just touch back onto the business side of it. You said you've basically got one customer Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Most people would, outside of farming, perhaps, would look at that and think that you've just got all your eggs in one basket. Do you feel that's the case, or, well, actually, you must feel like a little bit that's the case because you've dabbled in some other bits and bobs. Do you want to?
Yeah. So starting on the milk side of things, I think the way the dairy industry is at the minute is there's too much milk around. So Trewithen's got us by the short and curlies, really, in that we couldn't sell our milk to anyone else because, although I think with the jerseys it would probably be an easier thing because people would want that. But at the minute, we would struggle to find another milk contract with another processor. But if you look back 2 or 3 years ago, then we would have given our notice to Trewithen if we feel that we were being mistreated, and we would have gone to another processor without even blinking. So there's always that sort of scaremonger for Trewithen to maintain that we are well looked after. Don't get me wrong, they dictate our price. We get our milk statement every month, and within, 10 days of that next month, they could tell us that we're going to have a price cut, which I don't know how anybody can run their business in that sort of means that suddenly we start losing more money within 10 days of that next month.
Yeah, I can't imagine it in any other sort of market at all.
The way it's been in the last 2 years, you absolutely dread opening that text. And every time they take a penny of us, that's £1,000 a month. So that to me is, I don't know how anybody can run their business like that when on the 20th of January, that in February you're going to be £1,000 less. So I think that's a massive thing that's got to perhaps change as a business sense. But as far as all our eggs in one basket, I think that's the only way we can do it. That is, there's no way we can say one day Trewithen's having this much milk and one day another processor's having this much milk. Nobody can run their business that way. So I think, unfortunately, as far as the dairy's concerned, all our eggs in one basket.
Yeah, fair enough. Like I said, you dabbled in a few other bits. You've made an appearance on Homes Under the Hammer, doing a bit of property redevelopment. We're actually sitting in your barn conversion that you've done over the past 18 months, 2 years, and done a brilliant job, I must say. And thanks for letting me doing this here with you. Talk to us a little bit about your property redevelopment bits and bobs there.
So I think what farming and agriculture in a lot of ways gives you opportunities with is banks are safe knowing that they can hold your deeds to your farm and have their money one way or another. So it does create opportunities to borrow money. No doubt about it. You'll see a lot of farmers that's invested in other things purely because of the structure and the asset of their business that they have already. So I think that has created windows for us to go out and have a little dabble in a few things. Property, I think, is a fairly safe house. No pun
Excuse
intended.
the pun.
Yeah. Is fairly safe to put your money into. Maybe you'll have a bit of a crisis in the housing market, but it's going to come back again. So that's no worries. So we have invested in a little bit of property. We've diversified into selling bottled water, which is the whole Del Boy Only Fools and Horses sort of thing that everyone keeps on reminding us about, which is going really well. Sort of striking on the tourists that are coming down.
What's that company called? Did you say?
Just Water Limited that's what we dabble in. Have a go at that, which is doing really, really well. That is very seasonal. In the winter, it quietens right down, but in the summer, if we have a good summer, then we have a good year. Then I felt like I wanted my own little sort of empire sort of thing to start going and creating, and felt that there was a gap in the market for equestrian supplies. So went to the bank and spoke to them with a business plan and managed to get a loan to start that business up, which had an excellent first year, but the focus got lost a little bit by myself and a few others around. I didn't anticipate how much time it would take of my own time. I sort of felt, okay, I can chuck money on it and it would work, but an absolute massive learning curve for me is that it hasn't. But there, I'm not at all ashamed by it. I'm quite happy I had a go. And as soon as this is all done and dusted and paid off, I shall have another go with something else. Without doubt, it hasn't dented my confidence whatsoever. But massive learning curve for me. You gotta be extremely focused if you want to go and do something else. And at the minute, I'm solely focused on the farm, so I need to get that out of my system.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's perfectly fine. It's good that hasn't knocked your confidence, because a lot of people, I think, that would start something like that and hasn't quite worked out, it would set them back a little bit. But obviously, it's like you said, you've learnt from it. What was the biggest thing that you learnt from it, that you needed to put more attention into it if you're going to start something up? If there was, any advice out there for someone?
I'd say, as far as Vice is concerned, is I absolutely hate horses. So I've suddenly opened up a horse equestrian supplies business, and I am absolutely ignorant to knowing anything about horse and what the hell goes on it. And that's been my biggest downfall, is that I haven't personally been able to drive this business myself. I've had to rely upon others. And don't get me wrong, they've done a fantastic job. And I'm not blaming it on them whatsoever. It's totally my on my head. But unless you have heavy investment into something, it's hard to find motivation to keep driving on. I always had that interest payment to make every month. So I had that sort of drive that it had to move on. And some could have said, well, I could soon start learning about horses, but I don't want to. I have no interest in it at all. And that's like telling your big butch rugby player boy to go and learn ballerina dancing. He'll go and kick up and not be happy. It's you've got to be able to drive what you're doing. You've got to be able to know your grounds that you're working on. And I know dairy farming, so that's got to be my drive at the minute. Yeah,
of course. That's brilliant. That's nice of you to share your
failure.
I suppose. I think we really want to.
Yeah, no, that's right.
That seems to be the right.
This must be soon over now.
Okay, so we've touched on most things. What does success look like to you?
Success, one word, easy. That's simple. Happiness.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Easy question. Come on.
How do you get to that level? How do you get to happiness?
Well, how do you describe the word happy? I think you just got to be happy. If you're successful, then you're happy. So everyone has a different interpretation of the word happy. And to me, being successful is being happy. I think not that saying if you're unsuccessful, you're not happy, but that is my goal. That is 100% my goal. If I'm happy in life, then I'm successful.
And is Milkin and everything what's going to make you happy? Or is that what makes you, does it make you happy in the long term?
Yeah. I think there's enough opportunities within this industry that I'm in that I feel I can be happy enough to live my life how I want to live my life. I'll be happy. I'm happy now, so let's keep it going.
Let's keep the happiness on.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Bit of a weird way to end the conversation, but
I've got a couple more. Yeah.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, just a couple.
Yeah,
just a couple. If you could put a billboard up anywhere in Cornwall, where would it be and what would it say?
It would be right on the Cornwall-Devon border, and it would say probably something like I'd have to think about it a bit longer, but it would be something like if you're going to be here, support local.
Okay. Oh, that's great.
That's what it would be.
That's brilliant. That's quite a good one. I like that.
Because I think you got to look after your own, and that's what we are here.
Yeah.
Cornwall's very well known for being very patriotic, and I think if you're gonna come down here and live in our sort of county, then come and support the people who are here already.
Brilliant. Well said. And on that note, is there a local business that you use regularly or one that you'd highly recommend to our listeners?
Local, as in a bit of a plug sort of thing. Probably Walter Bailey's down Par. That is who supplied us with pretty much all the materials to convert this barn, and supply us with a lot of the agricultural side of things. Absolutely fantastic people to work with, very accommodating, bend over backwards for you, extremely cheap in their own way. Yeah, I would say Walter Bailey's down Par, builder's merchant, but also dabble in a bit of agriculture. Fantastic family-run company. Really, really decent people.
Excellent. Right, well, thanks, Mike, for your time and your honesty on everything.
That's right.
I hope all the listeners enjoyed your talking. I suppose that's the way to put it.
Probably not.
No, I was interested anyway. So interested, I sometimes forgot to the question I was going to ask. But yeah, thanks very much, and thanks everyone for listening. Bye bye. Brilliant. Once again, thank you everybody for listening to the whole conversation, and thank you, Mike, for being the second guest on the Kernow Kast. If you are not from the farming community, I hope you enjoyed the conversation and you learnt something and got an insight into what is happening in the Cornish countryside. If you are from the agricultural background, and there's anything that you would have wanted me to ask Mike, then please let me know at kernowkast@gmail.com, cast with a K, or find us on Facebook. Or if there's anything that you'd like to add to what Mike's been saying, say if you're maybe from the beef side of cattle farming, or perhaps vegetable growing, whatever, any sort of side of the agriculture, I would love to have you on and speak with you, because I'm all about learning about exactly what is going on in Cornwall. As for the Kernow Kast itself, we have another episode due out, and that is with a guy called Thomas Cheeseman. He runs a clothing brand and shop called Mustard, situated in Looe and soon to be St. Ives, I believe. So check that one out. It's another good conversation, and obviously a totally different side of Cornish business. So give it a whirl. That's try that one out. As you can see, I'm still learning and I'm blabbering a bit, so we'll call it a day for now. And thanks again for downloading. It really does mean a lot to me. But yeah, cheers and gone. All the best.